Well, hey, welcome back to the Unshakeable podcast. And Ty joining us again. We've got Shane, a little tip of the cap. We got Shane. Shane, what's your role on staff here at Hope City?
Yeah, my role.
Here's what I'm asking. Do you do anything around here? That's what I'm trying to get at.
Well, if you ask most people who come to church here on a Sunday, when they ask that question, they're like, what do you do throughout the week? Do you just like go office to office and sing songs?
That's one of our favorite things that you do.
To which my answer is I do, actually. And I feel like they really appreciate it.
Do you know what you do around here that I appreciate?
What's that?
You refill the little mint things in the green room.
I do, yeah.
And I go in all week and pretty much just eat
steal
those.
them all. Yeah.
You have to refill them again by Sunday.
I didn't know one person could go through 1,000 pack in a week.
They're addicting. They're really good.
They're so good.
Well, I'm glad you're on staff. You get to tell people basically whether they're good enough to be on the worship team, which that sounds like an enjoyable job.
Yeah.
Like American Idol.
What do you do when, what's the go-to line when, now we're kind of giving it away, but when somebody gets up and clearly they sing like I do, and you're like, yeah, you're probably more gifted to hold a door.
We got some mint trays that need filling.
It's usually like, you seem really nice.
I feel like he's telling the truth. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I actually get to do here.
What do you actually do?
So I get to lead our worship live team, which consists of worship, production, communications, and design.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you have to be good at conflict.
Yep.
Because you guys are always arguing about songs.
Yeah. And
is Creed the greatest of all time?
Right.
Is it not?
To which the answer is yes.
Okay. Can you tell the podcast listeners what your favorite? Do you have a favorite artist?
Do I have a favorite artist?
Yeah.
How appropriate does the artist have to be for this concert?
Well, now we all want to know. Yeah, we can't back off now.
Unofficially, it may or may not be, allegedly, Justin Timberlake.
Oh my gosh.
Big fan.
Wow.
Seen him live more than once.
Of course you have.
So we've got some people watching this that are going to be very much appreciative of that, and others who are going to judge you hard.
But there is an artist that I've seen way more. I'm a big Need to Breathe fan.
Huh. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, they're
probably seen them
good.
8 times.
Yeah.
And I'll go every single time they're on
We
tour.
think we were at the same concert at the Amp, like, I don't know,
like
8
years before
ago.
we knew.
Okay,
Yeah.
and most people don't know this about you, but when you were out in San Diego, you got to hang out with a couple pretty big guys, Brandon Lake, Phil Wickham.
Yeah. So Phil lives in San Diego.
You don't brag about it, but I can say it.
He lives in San Diego, and so through this weird little, string of events, I got connected to his manager on Instagram, and then ended up meeting Phil and getting to hang out with them. So huge fan. Like, there's always the questions of like, are these guys, really the same behind the scenes? And at least for those guys, 100%.
Speaking of what we're talking about today, which is conflict, I haven't been able to help but notice that you haven't gotten either one of those to come to Hope City and do a concert yet.
What are those guys doing on
That is very
Sunday?
true. I'm a huge fan of them. I don't know that they're a big fan of me.
There it is.
Ding, 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 ding. Oh, I love it. Well,
Maybe I fangirled a little too hard there. I don't know.
Seriously, though, this last week we talked about conflict. And so I know it sounds weird, but I'm excited to talk about conflict.
Great week to have the boxing gloves here.
Great week to have the boxing gloves here. And conflict is something that not very many of us are good at. So we had this last Sunday talking about conflict, and I thought we should start the podcast today. This would be fun.
Yep.
Talking about what is the largest animal you think you could fight and win?
Fist fight?
Bare hands, no weapons. And if you guys say an animal that could obviously kick your butts, I'm calling you out.
I think I could.
If you say a lion,
like confidently, baby giraffe.
Really?
I think so.
I've seen some Animal Planet type videos.
It's huge, but
giraffes are.
I mean, if I get that thing
violent.
into a rear naked choke, what's it gonna do?
Well,
Yeah, but what section do you choke?
you got a lot of
Doesn't matter.
neck. You got
I
a lot of
sweep
neck.
the leg and then I go in for the neck.
I mean, I feel like that's almost just like I could.
It's kind of mean.
I could take out a little kitten.
Yeah.
Like, okay, Ty.
I think I could take that out too.
I think I could take down a 4-year-old toddler.
What about you, Shane? You got an animal of choice?
I do. I've thought about this a lot. I'm going to submit my answer of Siberian Husky.
A dog?
Yep. No, a Siberian Husky. Not all dogs.
What do you have against Siberian Huskies? Those are beautiful animals.
They are, but I don't know. I don't like the way that they
have a little bit of attitude.
They have a little bit of sass.
You know,
I don't like it.
I know this is more a desire of an animal that I want to take out rather than one that I think I can. But I hate geese, and I'd love to punt a goose like a football.
Great, great answer.
Just to where its neck's whipping around and like it doesn't know where it's at. I know that's actually really mean. But when I was little, I had a goose come up and bite me on the neck when I was like 5, and I've never forgot it. And I hate geese. They are mean, and they poop all over our parking lot
every single year.
Yeah. So you know what? If you love to hunt geese, we'll set you a stand up right now by the south end of the church.
That's right.
So we were talking about conflict. So I will tell you, like, and I mentioned at the beginning of the message this last week, but I really do get excited talking about this because I actually had to learn conflict. I wouldn't say I'm good at it. I've gotten better at it though, and I had to learn it. And I don't think we talk about it enough. I don't think we talk about like techniques and what are good ways to fight? You know, I mean, we don't talk about it in marriage. I know, especially among our singles, like there's just dynamics with friends and everything else. I think that we aren't practicing really good skills when it comes to certainly in culture. We don't know how to fight. We don't know how to have disagreements and arguments without completely blowing up relationships. Right. So I was thinking about this. If you could think of, and I prepped you guys, so you guys already got it queued up. If you could think of a story where you were in the midst of pretty significant conflict, may or may not be proud of it. Personally, mine, I'm not super proud of.
Yep.
Why don't we just share that real quick? That way those who are listening and are watching the podcast can go, okay, I'm not the only one who has been in situations where I've walked away feeling like I didn't handle it very well.
Does it make us good candidates to be hosting this podcast if all three of us are not proud of our
Probably not.
I'll tell you what not to do.
But we're being transparent, right?
Yeah.
We're endearing ourselves to the church family. So
I think of one, the first house my wife and I bought. You know, you
I have
get
not
the
heard
keys.
the story, by the way.
Yeah, you get the keys, and then you got to start painting and everything. This was back whenever we had like Thursday night worship gatherings.
Oh yeah.
And so we had closed the day before. I went after church, started painting 8 or 9 o'clock, and for whatever reason, it just was not going well. I was spilling paint, dripping paint on everything. For some odd reason, I was in a hurry and I was stressed. And then the door opens and my wife walks in, and she kind of just takes a look at everything. Hey, so I noticed you've got paint on the trim. I'm like, yeah, we're going to paint it anyway. What does it matter? She's like, well, I think we need to do it right. And at that point, I was like, you don't even know what I've been through. I'm sweating at this point. I'm frustrated. And then we just start getting into it. There's a fight that happens, and it ends with, she leaves and goes back to our rental home. And I'm just sitting there painting. I'm spilling more trim on the paint on the trim on purpose. I got so mad that
You're
night.
writing names in the trim of how you feel.
Literally, this is how low I went. That night, I packed up the paint. I packed up the plastic, all of the brushes. I threw it all away, went to the hardware store the next day and bought all new stuff. Not only did I lose the fight, I wasted all my money.
Needed a clean start.
I needed a clean slate.
Well, all I'm saying, if Tessa's listening to this, is I'm sure it was your fault.
Yeah, 100% was. I've come a long way.
Shane, you got a story?
Yeah, I have a story. So
I feel like mine's worse than both of yours, but go ahead.
It's probably going to be.
I'm excited.
Obviously I've gone through, different situations of conflict in the church and my job, working with volunteers, or, you have the kind of the age old. I had one situation where I was maybe on staff at this church for 2 weeks, and a church member comes up to me and digs into, doing songs by certain worship teams that they don't agree with their theology. That was a big conflict that resulted in them leaving the church and blaming me. But probably the worst one was at a doctor's office. I felt like they were not billing us in the best way possible. And I guess it was a bad day. And for whatever reason, I decided I decided to let them know just how immoral and unethical they are and how they're feeding big pharma and a lot of issues that I know nothing about. So you want to know what I did that night?
Yeah, I do.
I went online and paid the bill. Chelsea is still, this was Chelsea's doctor, and she never went back. She found a new doctor. She was embarrassed to go back to that place.
Yeah. So, so mine is, I think Jace was like in 5th grade, and we were at a baseball game in Springfield, and the team we were playing they were just turds. Like the coach was turd, and he just coaching his players up to be, just jerks. And Jace was playing shortstop, covered second base. Kid slides in, like cleats up, spikes him, takes him out. He's hurt. And we're sitting there. I mean, it's not a big crowd. It's 5th grade, Yeah. And we're sitting there in the crowd, and my wife goes, she says something out loud like, "Hey, that's dirty," or something like that. It was something nicer than that, but it was about how the slide was, "Hey, we need to play with respect," or something. I don't know. I can't remember what it was. But the coach from the other team looks up in the stands at my wife and at Rachel and goes, you need to be quiet. Oh, and I was like,
you saw red.
Okay, bro.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you don't talk to my wife. And the umpire turns around and goes, "Listen, I'm going to kick all of you out of this game if you don't pipe down." And so I just kind of sat there for a second, and the guy next to me leans over and goes, "I'm going to be honest, I've never seen a pastor get kicked out of a Little League baseball game before." And I was like,
you're about to see it today.
I felt so stupid because I was like, okay, that escalated quickly, and I probably shouldn't have said anything. But he said something to my wife, and I got to defend her honor,
That's right.
Chivalry.
So,
That's
right. Yeah. So I was thinking about this. Everybody has a go-to in conflict, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So we talk about fight, flight, or freeze, right?
Yep.
So what do you do, Ty?
I think it depends kind of on the specific relationship.
Yeah.
Usually my go-to is some form of flight, like try to avoid or kind of get away, hide, outpace it, outwork it, whatever it is to try to fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shane. Unless it's with my wife, then it's clearly fight.
Yeah, you don't have a choice.
It is a little bit different when you're at home. Shane?
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I think a lot of times it probably depends. This is not like an Enneagram podcast, and this will probably be the last time I mention Enneagram for the next year and a half. But I'm a 3, and so the only times I kind of do go to the Enneagram is try to figure out, why I respond to things certain ways. And so
that's where it's helpful.
Yeah. So being a 3 is like the achiever, right? So I want to succeed. I want to be like, I want to fix things. But more importantly, I want people to like me.
Yeah.
And think that I'm successful, right? And so it depends how I respond to conflict. And so a lot of times I would say probably the most like prevalent response is freeze. And it's because I want to diffuse.
Yeah.
Because I associate conflict with like I failed this relationship in some way. And so I freeze to try to maybe just
calculate,
make it go away.
Yeah.
I calculate, and then maybe it'll just go away and we can be friends again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it probably also depends. If I don't know the person, like if I'm at a doctor's office, I'll run straight into it.
I won't go back, but
I will pay the bill. But I think because there's times when you could do one of any 3, but it seems like there's one that tends to be a go-to. I have always been a fighter in conflict, which this sounds weird. You talked about Enneagram. I'm an 8, but actually part of the motivation in somebody who is wired like an 8 on the Enneagram is that actually conflict, you're looking for resolution to hopefully bring you closer together. So like if I had a conflict with either of you, like I would press in and push the topic hoping to get to like a resolution, but that can oftentimes come across as like wanting to continue to argue or to be a fighter. So Rach and I are opposite ends of the spectrum on this.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know how it works in your marriage, but so I'm one that always wants to like well, let's work this out, and she's like, nah, I just need space, and if you've got one person that needs space and one person that wants to talk it out, it's usually a disaster. Because you're like, well, you can't just shut down and be like, well, you can't just argue with me all the time, and so marriage is definitely a place where conflict happens. And I was thinking of this even in our marriages in the church. I think for folks who are navigating conflict in marriage, to me, you can actually develop a appetite for conflict to where it gets so out of control that it's hard to dial back. So if you have a bucket and you start to put stressful things in that bucket, whether you're married or single, you've got things like finances. In marriage, sex is usually a conflict and a topic of tension because you've got dynamics around intimacy with that. So you've got these pieces. If you've got children, and they're stressing you out. You got job. If you're single, you've got all these dynamics you're navigating, and you put that in the bucket starts to overflow, and sometimes you find yourself just reacting rather than responding. And so one of the things I think that I've even thought through, we were looking at different passages around this. Proverbs 15:1, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but harsh words stir up anger. These are all good passages. James 1 says, everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry, because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. And all those resonate in my head, but when I'm in the moment and that stress bucket is overflowing, someone can walk in and say, hey, you got paint on the trim, and you just want to be like, I'm going to kill a small kid, I'm going to kick a goose.
Or a small giraffe.
A small giraffe.
And I could.
Which is weird, and you can do it. And so it's almost like that bucket starts to overflow.
Yeah.
And so we talked about this Sunday, but the fact that it is a reflection of Christ, I think should be like a gauge on the dash. So if you find yourself reacting and in conflict, in a way that you're like, man, this isn't honoring God, I think often we can look at the gauges on the dash and go, man, what's going on? Do I have too much on my plate? Am I running too hard? At some level, do I need some margin in my life? Am I spending time with the Lord? I look at all the moments where Jesus was in it. There was conflict all around him. They were trying to kill him half the time. We read that with Paul getting kicked out of the city and stoned, and you see this with the disciples. The only way they're able to navigate that conflict and at any level it be healthy is to have some margin to be able to step back, take a breath, and let that bucket, let the stress of that bucket go down a little bit so it doesn't just spill out on everybody around you. And so I know that the times when I look back, I don't know if the doctor's office was like this for you, but when I look back at that Little League game and I'm like, we had so much stress in our life right then, and something that may not normally have pushed me, to been the last straw, pushed me over the edge to get frustrated or react instead of respond. And it just became easier because life felt like it was coming at you from every angle. And so, and we've talked about this even with margin and living healthy. But when you think of unhealthy and healthy conflict, I don't know what comes to your guys' minds. Maybe one of the best things, I don't know if our wives will appreciate this, but one of the best ways, I am going to have Rachel on here, so she'll have a chance to defend herself. But one of the best ways we can translate a lot of conflict is from marriage, because there's plenty of conflict in marriage to be able to.
Lots of opportunity.
There's a lot of opportunity to learn and grow.
Get better.
When Rachel and I were first married, I would say we argued totally different. So in her home, no one argued. In my home, my siblings, if you wanted the recliner, you fought for the recliner. That's the way. Everything was a fight. We just were, like dogs, on a bone. It's just we're gonna, what you want to sit shotgun? Well, I'll fight you for shotgun, and we'll fist fight to get shotgun. We were just, that's just the way we function. We were in it all the time. And so two totally different dynamics. We get married and, we have our first argument. I can't even remember what it was about. I'm sure it was something really stupid, and I'm sure I was right, obviously. But we have our first argument, and Rachel's devastated. She's like, oh man, I can't believe we're arguing. And I'm like, well, this is how relationships work, man. You just,
what do you mean? That wasn't an argument.
And as an Enneagram 8, I'm like, well, this is going to bring us closer together. We'll argue and then make out later or something. I don't know how this works, but I just remember like our approach was totally different, and we had to learn literally, hey, what's healthy? Not just healthy for me, but healthy for the two of us. And then I think even as we navigate conflict, you have to start to determine and decipher. That's why it's good to sit around and go, hey, tell some stories about like when you had conflict in your life and you're like, this isn't probably one of my more proud moments.
Yeah, I think it comes down to like if you're able to be aware of like there's conflict coming. I think of like all the different times in a relationship, especially with my wife Tess, it's like I'll say something and then sometimes I'm able to catch it and go, ooh, I just hit like a soft spot there. Yeah. I need to dial it back. It's the times that you don't catch it.
Okay, so just to maybe expound on that a little bit more. So, because I think one of the things when we get into conflict or we get in a conversation where we feel like there's an injustice or we're being wronged, I think we turn everything, all our attention is on us and not the other person. So you just said understanding that there's something else there, maybe with that person, and something else going on outside of just my circumstances. I think that's like
sometimes
really
there's like
huge.
an issue below the issue, and it can actually come out, and you think like, oh, well, that's the issue is like, oh, I put the dishes in the wrong place. But the actual issue is like, no, I actually she doesn't feel valued. And
there's other stuff going on.
Yeah, there's other stuff going on.
I think one of the reasons that it's great to like pause for a moment when you're in conflict is to assess, like, am I operating out of the spirit or the flesh? You said, in your message Sunday, you said conflict is inevitable, but how we handle it reveals whether we're living from fear and shame or grace and truth. And so, like you said earlier, I feel like when that bucket is overflowing, I'm operating out of the flesh, right? And so my response is either coming from fear and shame, but if I have margin, if I pause, if I evaluate myself to see if I'm operating out of the spirit and grace and truth get involved, it totally changes the dynamic of the conflict. It's like, am I fighting to be right, or if I'm fighting to be righteous?
Man,
that's good.
Another bumper sticker.
Yeah.
Am I fighting to be right? Did you? That's awesome. So, for those who don't know your wife, she's hilarious. She makes me laugh a lot.
Yeah, she's awesome.
What are the differences between you and Chelsea and the dynamics?
Well, we would be the polar opposite of your home.
Okay. So Chelsea's more of the I want to talk it out. And you're more of the I want to take a break. Yeah.
Yep.
I feel
she's
like,
feisty.
I feel like she's let me have it and made sure that I knew that I was wrong before.
Yeah, she almost let you have it on Sunday when you talked about not putting the cart back in the thing at Target.
What'd she say?
She leaned over to me and she goes, some of us have kids we have to load in the cart.
And I can literally hear her saying that. Just made me laugh. And I'm not going to follow up with her on that because she can definitely make sure that I know that there's a sensitive spot there. Yeah. So, but I think that's key in any relationship. So, for those who aren't married or those who would say, man, I'm learning some stuff in my marriage. I think you can take that because you're with your spouse so much, you're going to have conflict, right? Yeah. But I think for those, because we have a lot of singles in our church, and to go, man, I may not live with somebody like a spouse, but maybe they have a roommate, and they're looking at that going, for those of you who are in conflict in marriages, what would you say to us? And I think you guys are starting to nail it to go, man, how do you look at the other person, seek not to be right, but to be righteous, but look at the other person and go, okay, what's going on in this conversation? I've got...
You've got some practical tips, right?
I do. This was given to me, and maybe maybe you'll remember, maybe you won't, but there was 5 steps to conflict. Now, if you can get the first 2 of these, I think the the rest of it comes. And so the first step when you're into conflict is to define the conflict. I've actually gotten to where I start to practice this because I actually don't feel like I'm very good at conflict because I'm an emotional person and I'm a feeler. So like I get caught up in it. Like, so if there could be a fight going on at Walmart and I have nothing to do with it. And I'm like, all right, guys, what are we fighting for? Like, let's, like I just get sucked in.
Which start cheering for one of them. You don't even know why.
I know. I'm like, I think it was at some point, like this may be a good church planter because I'm like, oh yeah, we'll fight for whatever, you know? And at the same time, there's times when it's literally not any of my business, but I'm like, I should get in this.
You're like, why am I dying on this hill right now?
Even Rachel would be like, hey babe, I really don't think this is something you need to worry about. And I'm like, no, you're probably right. I'm actually getting really caught up in the emotion of it. But there's 5 Ds, and the first D is to define it. So define what the conflict is. And the second one is to detach. Well, if you can do these 2, I think you can start to figure out the next 3. If you can go, if you and I are having a conflict and I'm like, okay, it seems like, and I've learned this, y'all, and I'm just saying a leadership principle, 90% of conflicts are not about an issue you have with the other person. It's about an issue apart from the other person. You both have said it, like there's something going on under the surface or whatever. But if you can define what the issue is, we talk about it for people who are in the workplace right now. They're like, man, I'm dealing with conflict at work. I think to be able to go, hey, most of your conflict is because something's not clear. There's expectations that aren't being met. There's systems. Yeah. It's not because they don't like you. No, every once in a while you run across somebody who doesn't like you. And you kick them like a goose, and so, but most of the time there's something, there's unclarity or there's stress coming from workloads and systems and everything else. So if you can start to define it and go, man, it seems like there's something contributing to this. What is the issue? Yeah. Like what is truly going on? It's actually why, we talked a little bit about youth sports last week, but it's actually why in youth sports, a lot of this stuff comes out because parents, just think about this for a moment. Parents have had a stressful week, stressful day. They get to the ball field that evening. They're already tapped. Their kids forgot their cleats. There's all this stuff going on. And there's probably the contingency of young parents are some of the most stressed out people, in our culture and context. You get them all together, and then you've got the stressful dynamics of competition, and it just kind of seeps out, right? But there's always something, like if you've ever been at a ball game, and I have, and you watch somebody lose their mind, and you're like, there's something else going on there. Like they have had I literally find myself going, that mom's had a rough day, like she's wound up, and you can see it, right? And so if you can define like, hey, there's something more here, and then that next one is to detach, and that's literally going, man, this may not be about you and me. This may be about another issue. The third one is to diffuse. And I actually think both of you are actually really good in conflict. And I'm sure that was just an accident that we had the two of you in this podcast on conflict. But you both really are. Like, there's moments where I just feel like if something's stressful or things are going crazy, not only are you able to stop and define, okay, what's going on, but I think you guys don't typically match energy. You're typically trying to diffuse, and I think I commend you both for that. That's the third one. If you can, I would say this: if you can diffuse, if you can define, detach, and diffuse, I feel like the rest of this is almost like you're over the hill. You're on the road to being healthy conflict. The fourth one is discuss. So instead of like, yell, I like the word discuss, like actually have a conversation about what's going on. Yeah. And then the last one is dump, which basically means you need to flush it. We had a coach one time, every time we'd lose the game, he'd just look at the boys and he goes, all right, boys, you played like crap. Make sure you flush it or it's just going to stink, And I'm like, nasty analogy, but it actually works. So I think if you can define it, detach yourself from it feeling personal. Even when somebody comes up and attacks you, there's usually something else going on. There's every once in a while, I said this, every once in a while you run into somebody who's just mean. Yep. But it's actually not that often. Right. There's mean people out there. They're wanting to actually just absolutely destroy you. Yeah. But I think there's a lot of people that we bump into, and life is stressful and things are going on. There's stress at home. There's conflict in the marriage. Their kids, they are struggling at school. Something's happening. There's disciplinary issues. There's financial issues. You add whatever you want to the mix. Health issues. Yeah. And if you can just get to a place of going, man, if I could detach myself from what's going on and actually begin to diffuse and discuss, this is what I would say. I would say it actually becomes a ministry opportunity. It becomes an opportunity for God, which is what we talked about Sunday, for God's grace and truth to bring glory. And I think for God's people to do something that is absolutely countercultural.
Yeah. What I love about these tips is like every one of them, they're relational.
Yeah.
You know, and like you are really restoring, you're building a relationship through this. And I think that's awesome.
It's really good. Go ahead.
I was going to say, like you said, I'd be curious to hear your guys' answer, but like the first two are definitely the most difficult to establish, to get through if you ask me, hey, out of these 5, which one is the hardest for you? I would say detach. Yeah. Like I have a tendency to make things personal and like associate it to my identity, which isn't healthy.
Yeah.
But I do it sometimes. It goes, back to the ball fields. Like I can sympathize with some of the parents because, I've got 3 boys. 2 of them play all the travel sports and I'm all the things. And I'm like, when my son's out there playing football and he gets a flag thrown on him for holding, all of a sudden it becomes like, well, then I'm a terrible parent, a terrible coach, and he's a terrible athlete.
That's reflection on my fatherhood.
Like, no, he just held his shoulder pads when he wasn't supposed to. And so to detach from like my identity is really hard for me.
Yeah. Well, so you think about it right now. I don't know. Maybe this is probably anybody who doesn't have a kid playing sports. They're still going to identify with this. But it is why it's so hard right now to get referees and umpires for youth sports because there's this element of justice in umpiring. I mean, not an element. It is what you're doing. You are deciding what is safe and out, what is out of bounds, what is in bounds, what is traveling, what is legal, what is illegal in the sport. And so if you've got a justice bone in your body and you're like, oh, there's an injustice that's happened. I'm like, I need to fix this injustice. I remember standing on the sidelines at a basketball game and Jace my son got fouled clearly, and the referee said he tripped, and I was like, you know what? This referee hates my son. He is against my son. He is an enemy. He was paid. He has been
the other team.
He has been manipulated by the opponent. And what you do is you start to realize how easy it is to get spun up over stuff. And so I would say this. You talked about freezing in conflict, and while that can be unhealthy, I think there's something about that is very healthy. And I've found, so if anybody out there is like me and you're like, man, I tend to like be more emotionally driven and I can get sucked into a moment. Man, for me, the best thing I've been able to do in that issue of define and detach is, man, if there's any, and this sounds so like psychobabble or so practical, but even being able to go, okay, maybe I should just count to 10, allow myself to breathe a little bit before I respond, and not react. We talk about reacting versus responding. Typically, when you react in a conflict, typically it's not necessarily calculated.
Right. You always regret it.
You always regret it. There's some things that you wish you would have done different. And then you look back and you go, man, if I would have responded instead of reacted. But I mean, there's just an element for us, and I think we're overloaded right now. We're more stressed than ever, and so it's just like those old tea kettles. When they start to get so much pressure, they start to whistle. It's like, man, somebody just needs to hit that release valve. Yeah, and so you mentioned it with grace and truth, but I really do think, and this is, you guys can speak for yourselves, but for me, man, when I feel like I'm in a really good place spiritually, and I've spent time with the Father, I just handle conflict better. Yeah. And when I'm running a million miles an hour and I've shortcutted my time with the Lord, I don't have margin to spend in prayer, and I'm even doing things for Him. I mean, we're in ministry, right? Yeah. So it's like, hey, we're doing things for God, but we're actually not spending time with Him. Yeah. Then conflict just is harder to navigate. Yeah. And I think it reflects my flesh more than it reflects His Spirit. So.
Yeah. Well, that's why we live in this like outrage culture right now.
Oh gosh.
Like especially on social media.
Yeah.
Is because of this. Everyone is overwhelmed and stressed.
What are you guys seeing? If you could say anything to Christians right now in digital world, what are you seeing that is unhealthy, that you feel like, man, this could be, everybody could look introspectively right now and just go, man, if I'm doing this in digital world, social media wise, it probably isn't portraying a good image of who Jesus is.
Well, Paul addresses it, right?
Yeah.
In 1 Corinthians, like he talks about, in chapter 6, you talked about it a lot Sunday, but he talks about like believers addressing believers, and he talks about, doing it in public and in front of the secular eye and taking them to court. And it's like the modern day equivalent of the courthouse is social media.
Yeah.
And so if you are, if you're a believer and you've got conflict with another believer and you're, running to that public space to air out your grievances. We talked about like, if you're married, you encounter a lot of conflict with your spouse. And it seems like I see a lot, maybe if you're not married, I don't know, maybe this will resonate with someone, but if you have conflict with someone, like it's real easy to share that meme that is a dig at them.
It is.
But you don't have to confess that it's a dig at them. You were just sharing it because it was funny. But
and it's an opportunity to try to be right, not righteous.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I would say if you're running to the public space, to the courthouse, which is social media now, you may need to check whether you're fighting to be right or righteous.
Yeah. I find myself reading comments at times just being like, dude, I want to comment so bad on this because what they're saying is so ludicrous.
Oh, there's so many times where I've typed a comment and
it's like if we were having a conflict in person, we would never be like on the side of the road going, hey, you come over here, you tell me what you think about this and you tell me who's right. And
don't know any of you, but I'd love your opinions. Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong. It is like highly like entertaining.
Oh yeah.
To watch, like
live in the comment
to watch
section
these
sometimes.
things. There's sometimes where I'll go back and just search. Like, I wonder if anyone else has commented on this thing like 3 months ago. But probably not the most wise decision, though.
Even the effort in trying to be right is creating a self-righteousness.
Yep.
Like, which is against it's what Paul's addressing. And I would tell you this: one of the things that I've seen even in Christian circles, because Paul is talking about Christian brothers and sisters. Having conflict with each other. Like when you have conflict with unbelievers, when there's disagreements, there's an understanding that they don't hold the same values and beliefs that we do. And so we can have conflict, but it's from a different premise, right? When believers have conflict, and one of the things I've seen is there is a segment of believers, I'm trying to figure out how to say this to and maybe you guys can say it better than I can. There's a segment of believers that sit back with popcorn and they actually punch believers who are trying to at any level portray the truth, and they do it because there's a self-righteousness to go, and you know what, I'm gonna point out that the church is wrong doing this. I'm gonna point out that pastors, and it's like, the church isn't perfect, and pastors aren't perfect, and ministries aren't perfect, and Christians aren't perfect, but there is a group of Christians who will sit back in their self-righteousness and just start punching at stuff. Well, this is the right way to do it. And you know what's wrong about that? And it's almost like they're pointing it out in this self-righteousness to be right. There is nothing in it that is healthy. You're not trying to encourage the believer. You're not trying to, you're not even trying to correct you. But there's like, silly them. They don't know
if only
God.
They knew what I know.
They don't know God like I know God.
I mean, Jesus talked about it. He called them Pharisees.
He did. But to be honest, it's almost like a fad. It's almost like it used to be, especially when especially when the hipster movement was really big, it was this idea of punching back or pushing back against the man type of thing. But that happens in Christianity as well, where you've got a sect of Christians who want to always be in opposition to the church or a majority of folks because they think at some level they hold a self-righteousness on truth that nobody else understands or has.
Makes me wonder, like, what is their view of God? Like, how do they approach
It's
God?
the right view.
That's true.
I can answer that.
But honestly, I think that's if we are open-handed in our relationships and we look at people who disagree with us, even brothers and sisters in Christ, and we go, hey, I think I can learn something from you. Like, not to compromise the truth, but like I can learn from anybody. Right. And there's people that can teach me even in differing opinions. Man, I've got some people in my life who we do not hold some of the same theological views, and we've had great conversations. And at the end of the day, do we agree? No, but I feel like I'm sharper afterwards. And so if you can learn to get into conflict in a healthy way, and there is a healthy way to have conflict. There's a healthy way and an unhealthy way.
Yeah.
And a healthy way is by the end, you're not sitting there going, man, I've compromised my faith. I feel regret. I have to go repent.
Yeah.
And then if you do it in an unhealthy way, acknowledging it, almost debriefing yourself and going, man, Lord, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Like, help me, God. Again, the gauges. Maybe I need to create some margin so that I'm not just stressed to the point where somebody bumps into me and I just vomit on them, whatever it is that my opinions
It's
are.
so easy to get stuck in the shame cycle of that too. You know, you blow up on someone, you regret it, and then you, instead of repenting, you just sit in it and you feel shame.
Well, I would say this, we all need to get better at it.
Yeah.
Like this is something we all can grow in.
Yeah.
And so if you're sitting there and you're like, man, I don't think, man, I suck at this. I am like, I have so much regret over relationships I've blown up or conflict. I just want you to know, like, you are the same as everybody else that talks about this, that's listening to the podcast, everybody. And we're all learning and growing. This side of heaven, you're going to bump into stuff where you're like, I wish I would have handled that better.
Yeah.
Just grow. Just continue to grow. Continue to try to find grace and truth in that. And so we're going to jump back in, obviously, next week. We got some
It's a big week.
hot topic next week too. But let me just ask you this as you close. Do you really think he could take a baby giraffe? I personally do not.
Yeah, not a shot.
Not a shot.
Not a shot.
Bet I could take you.
Very unhealthy
this on.
conflict. Okay, let's end the podcast with some very unhealthy conflict.
dump these hands on you.
Could you two fist fight to end the podcast? That's the way we want it. What'd you say? What animal did you say you could be?
Siberian Husky.
That is the weirdest response. It's a dog.
Yep.
That's a
I
pet.
would absolutely
So you could
truck that stupid
Well, I
dog.
would. So you believe? It's good to know you believe you could beat a pet up.
Yep.
All right. Well,
I'd say a puppy.
can we end with this before we end the podcast? Can we talk about what happened with your cat, your pet? Can we out you? I think we can.
You look conflicted.
What? We really have to bring this to the public forum?
Oh,
Yes,
yeah, we do.
Shane had a pet cat
We had some conflict.
that he had conflict with. He
detached.
He detached. He called animal control and told them there was a stray cat in his house, and they came and picked up his pet cat and took it away. That is one of the funniest things I've ever heard.
Oh, it's amazing.
And honestly, maybe the most strategic leadership decision I've known you to have ever made.
I thought it was pretty smart. The rest of my family still.
Chelsea does know this story, right?
Yeah. My
Okay,
entire.
'cause she's getting ready to,
And
she
my
doesn't.
kids know this. They all know the story.
Okay.
But it's, you're stoking something up right now. This is not good for me. I will never be on this podcast again.
Whatever we can do to toss some conflict out there for
great.
Shane and his family.
I'm still proud of that story, though. I tell it often.
I'm going to be honest. It's one of my favorite
Talk
stories.
about diffusing. diffusing
Oh,
conflict.
you got rid of an issue.
Me and that cat had some conflict, and
Not
I
anymore?
diffused it quick. Nope.
Conflict is
haven't heard
resolved.
from him since. He didn't have a name. His name was Cat. And I have not talked to Cat since. So
Nobody has.
no one's heard from him.
Meanwhile, if the Job Humane Society needs a donation, Shane's willing to give him a couple bucks here or there.
Yeah, we could
so-
drop the number for animal control in the show notes.
Yeah,
if you want.
there may be some guilt and shame in this story because I do donate to the Humane Society now.
Oh, so good. All right. Well, man, great conversation.
Yeah.
A lot of work to do in this area.
Yeah.
And then we'll jump back in.